Hello and welcome again. Today we're going to talk about driving Ms. Crazy. Now, I don't really think my mother's crazy, but it just seemed like a good title. Back when my sister was going to the University of South Carolina, it was a thing at the beginning of the semester for my mother and I to load up my sister's stuff into the pickup truck, take it down to the University of South Carolina to my sister's dorm, and for me to unload the truck, to roll it up to my sister's room, and she would unpack things. And then toward the end of the semester, she would pack things up, and my mother and I would go down there and load stuff up into the truck and take it back home. Now, when I was growing up and I was going off to college, my parents never helped me move in or out. As a matter of fact, my family never helped me move in or out. Suzanne and I were able to move ourselves in and out of our dorms when we were down at the University of South Carolina. The two of us helped one another then. And the only person that helped me move in any place up to that point was Phil Brown, who was a friend of mine, and he helped me move into my house trailer when I first moved to Spartanburg from Iowa. And then when I got ready to move out of Spartanburg, I'd moved to a house, in which, by the way, I moved myself from the trailer to the house. Just me and my dog Abby moved ourselves from the house to from the trailer to the house, and did all that in the hatchback of a Mercury Capri. And it took just a couple of trips. It wasn't much. And I always believed in packing lightly. Anyway, and then when I got ready to move out of the house, my child bride Suzanne, who was then my fiance, and our friends Roger and Debbie Madden, which they weren't married at that point in time, but they came up and helped me move out of the house and move the stuff into a storage there in Iowa. Well, anyway, on one of these occasions when we were going down to move my sister in, we had the stuff loaded on the back of the truck. My mother and I were driving down the road, and every time I got going any kind of speed at all, anything over 45, my mother would, have a freak episode. And of course, as you know, or you may know, when you're driving a manual transmission, or what we call straight drive, it's harder to drive slow than it is to drive fast, because you get to that point where the vehicle doesn't know whether it needs to be in second or third or what have you. But my mother was constantly telling me, you're driving too fast, you're following too close, you're stopping too quick, and that type of thing. And finally, about the time we hit the city of Columbia, I stopped the truck and said to my mother, "You drive it." And she said, "No, you're doing fine." So we go and we get my sister moved in, and of course as we're moving in, all her roommates and suite mates and floor mates and all that have the snippy little remarks, because they think they're better than you, and I don't make a great presentation anyway, but so what? Anyway, but they make all sorts of rude comments and that type of thing, snotty comments, and okay, let it roll off your back like water off a duck's back. Anyway, so we get my sister moved in, and we go, and on this particular trip we're going to move my grandmother from her house in Johnston, South Carolina, to our house in Iowa, South Carolina, because she's going to move there. We're in the process of fixing up a house for her to move into, and I'll tell you a little bit about that house and what happened to it later, but she didn't move into that house, the one that we were getting ready to move her to. Anyway, so we go to my grandmother's house, and my mother has this way of making you work harder than you have to. While I was trying to get things organized on the truck, she's moving things out into the porch, which means I have to step over them to load the other heavier stuff. And there's sort of a science to loading a pickup truck with furniture. You can get a whole lot more on it than you think, and you can get it to stay very stable if you pack it right. And that's something that from years of working at the store I learned. There are certain ways to pack things. You put the heavier stuff at the bottom, the lighter stuff at the top, and you tie it down very well. And so this particular load was tied down as well as it possibly could have been. It was strapped down very well. And my mother and I go to drive out of the yard. And of course, my mother starts, about the time we get into the driveway of my grandmother's house, telling me, "You need to slow down." I'm like, we're in a driveway. We're doing 2 miles an hour, but we're in a driveway. Come on. Anyway, so every time we come to a stop sign, she'd say, "You're stopping too hard," or "You're taking off too fast. You're going to dump the stuff on the side of the road." And this proceeded, or continued, as we proceeded down the road. So we're driving down the road. It's starting to get dark now. The sun is already set and it's dark. And every time I get over even 20 miles an hour, my mother says, "You're driving way too fast. You're going to blow the stuff off the back of the truck." And every time I got near the shoulder of the road, or actually anywhere away from the center of the road, she'd yell, "You're going to run into the ditch. You're going to run into the ditch." And of course I wasn't running into the ditch. I hadn't run into the ditch. Still to this day I haven't run into the ditch, and still to this day I haven't lost a single thing off the back of a pickup truck. Oh, come on now, I've run into a few ditches, but that doesn't count because I never ran into one in a pickup truck. I'm getting funny looks here off camera. And tongue sticking out and that type of thing. Anyway, but to get back to my short story and make it long, we're driving along and I'm not able to go over 30 miles an hour. My mother hollered at me, and I look back in the mirror and there are cars backed up to me. It looks like a traffic jam coming out of New York City or something. It's just miles and miles of cars. And then I see somebody out the rearview mirror, or the side mirror, I see somebody doing something really weird. I've been being passed all along. Cars just shooting around passing. But this particular car, he had plenty of room to go ahead and pass me, but instead of passing me, he squeezed in right behind me. And about the time he squeezed in right behind me, I thought I'd gone to Vegas and hit the jackpot. Actually, the bubblegum machine that hit the jackpot, as they say. These blue lights were flashing all over the place. And I pulled over onto the edge of the road, and he has me step to the rear of the vehicle, and he says, "How much you had to drink tonight, son?" I told him, "Nothing." He said, "What's wrong with the truck?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Well, I've been watching you for a little while, and you keep crossing the center line." He said, "Is there any reason why you're crossing the center line? Is there something wrong with the truck, the steering or whatever?" "No, sir, nothing wrong with the truck." And he says, "And you're not going very fast. Is there any reason you can't go any faster than this?" I said, "No, there's nothing wrong with the truck keeping me from going faster." He says, "Well, what's the problem?" And I told him, I said, "My mother. Every time I get more than 30 miles an hour, she screams that I'm going way too fast and I'm going to blow the stuff off the truck. And every time I get anywhere near the edge of the road, she hollers that I'm going to run into the ditch." And he says, "Okay." So he walks up and he has my mother step to the rear of the truck. And he tells her, he says, "Listen, he's driving way too slow and he keeps crossing the center line. Now you need to be quiet and let him drive, and he needs to go faster than this." He says, "I'm going to follow you all the way to the county line, and I'm going to radio ahead and let the troopers in the other counties know that you're on your way, that you're headed to Iowa, and that you're going to take the most direct route to Iowa. And don't say another word to him about his driving." I was like, "Okay." He says, "Listen, the stuff's tied down very good. It's not going anywhere. I've seen many trucks packed a whole lot worse than this, and they don't lose a single thing. So this is packed real good. It's tied down real well. You shouldn't lose anything off the back of the truck. Now, you get in the truck, and if I have to pull you over again, or somebody else has to pull you over again, they're going to write you a ticket." Talking to my mother. She's like, "Okay." And so we get in the truck. We go driving down the road, and I get it up to, normal speed, 55, and stay in the center of the road. And my mother starts saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And she continued that. And every time we crossed the county line, we'd see somewhere just inside the county line, either a sheriff's deputy or the highway patrol. And every time we passed one of those, my mother would say, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Anyway, we made it back. We didn't lose a single thing off the back of the truck. And it was great because this time I got to tell my mother, have the cops tell my mother to be quiet. Anyway, that's our story of driving Miss Crazy. If you have any comments, if you have some driving stories, drop us a line to Gindy's Videos, GINDYSVIDEOS @gmail.com. That's Gindy's Videos @gmail.com. Or just follow the link down in the blog post. You have a great day, and drop us a line. This is a Federal Trade Commission required notice. When you click on an advertisement that is displayed with this video, or just before it, we receive a small commission. Sometimes, if you merely watch an ad, we receive commission. If you purchase anything by clicking on links on any of our websites, we receive a commission as well. McClendon Studios is a participant in the Amazon Services LLC Associates Program, an affiliate advertising program designed to provide a means for sites to earn advertising fees by advertising and linking to Amazon.